Stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it.
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
It's 9 o'clock. Good evening. I know you're thinking, where's Patrick? Well, I'm stepping in for him just for tonight. This is Patrick Christys Tonight. I'm Nana Acquia.
He promised that he would stop the boats this year.
I think the way to stop the boats is to smash the criminal gangs.
People crossing in small boats across the channel. We have to stop that.
Broken promise after broken promise. The Prime Minister's failure to stop the boats has a real-world impact. Plus,
BBC is not just a broadcaster. It is a national institution that belongs to us all.
Benefits Britain. Is it right for those on benefits to get a free TV licence? And...
But this is not easy. And it is not a comfortable decision, and it's one that I wrestle with on a daily basis.
Protests in Westminster today over the government's puberty blocker trial set to begin in January.
Free, free! Free, free! Alright, but have you heard this one, though? Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF!
Police, wow, to finally crack down on pro-Palestinian protests and anyone chanting globalise the Intifada. Plus,
do not have a blasphemy law in this country, and we must not ever. It's really important that we have freedom of religion in this country as well as freedom of speech.
Labour's new Islamophobia definition is revealed, and it's worse than anyone could have imagined. Plus...
My message to resident doctors is don't abandon patients, work with us to improve conditions and rebuild the NHS.
Prime Minister lashes out at doctors as they continue their planned strike action over Christmas. On my panel tonight, Director of Popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkal. The Prime Minister can't stop the boats. Next.
Good evening to you. 2 minutes past 9 here in the GB newsroom. 2 people have been arrested at a pro-Palestinian protest in London after shouting slogans involving calls for intifada. It comes on the day police in London and Manchester vowed to adopt a tougher approach when dealing with demonstrations. They say the context has changed following the terror attack at a Jewish gathering in Sydney, warning the phrase intifada, an Arabic word for uprising, will be treated more robustly under public order laws.
The words and chants used, especially in protests, matter, and they have real-world consequences. We have consistently been advised by CPS that many of the phrases causing concern to Jewish communities don't meet prosecution thresholds. However, now, in the escalating threat context, we will recalibrate our operational actions to be more assertive.
The Prime Minister's described the latest strike by doctors in England as dangerous and utterly irresponsible. The 5-day walkout began this morning with NHS leaders warning patients of disruption in the run-up to Christmas. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch accused the government of another broken promise during PMQs earlier, but Sir Keir Starmer has blamed her party for leaving the NHS on its knees. Well, let's hear from the Prime Minister then, who is speaking at Prime Minister's Questions.
And my message to resident doctors is don't abandon patients, work with us to improve conditions and rebuild the NHS. But, Mr Speaker, they left the NHS absolutely on its knees, waiting lists through the roof and confidence absolutely rock bottom. And, Mr Speaker, I take no lectures from them on industrial harmony. More days were lost to strike action on their watch than any year since the 1980s.
Teenagers appeared in court charged with the murder of 9-year-old Aria Thorpe in Weston-super-Mare. Aria died after suffering a single stab wound on Monday. A 15-year-old boy who can't be named because of his age appeared at Bristol Magistrates Court earlier. He was remanded into youth detention accommodation ahead of a hearing at Bristol Crown Court on Friday. The former Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich has been told to release the £2.5 billion earned from the sale of the club or face court action. The oligarch, who was sanctioned for his relationship with Vladimir Putin, pledged to donate the proceeds to the people of Ukraine, but has yet to do so. The government has now issued a licence which would allow the frozen funds to be transferred, and it's prepared to take Abramovich to court if he refuses to pay up. Finally, Nick Reiner has appeared in court charged with the murders of his parents, the film director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. The 32-year-old faces 2 counts of first-degree murder, with prosecutors alleging he used a knife to carry out the attack. Outside the courthouse earlier, Reiner's attorney, Alan Jackson, told reporters his client's case is a complex one. Nick's siblings, Jake and Romy Reiner, said in a statement they are experiencing unimaginable pain after the horrific and devastating loss. The suspect is scheduled to appear again before court on the 7th of January. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 10.
When is enough enough? After boasting of a drop in small boats crossings in the Channel, almost like clockwork, here comes another boatload. GBNews revealed today another 550 migrants crossed the Channel, and that follows the 750 who arrived over the weekend. That's over 40,000 migrants this year. What happened to this promise, Prime Minister?
So mark my words. We will stop this. We will smash the gangs. We will crack down on illegal working. We will remove people with no right to be here. And we will secure Britain's borders.
And as Patrick revealed last night, there are real-world consequences to all of this. This was Abby, who bravely waived her right to anonymity so that she could talk about her abuse at the hands of an Iranian asylum seeker.
It has affected every single part of my life. You know, before this all happened, I felt like I was, you know, a normal teenage girl, you know, living her life, and now I feel like I'm living with precaution. Every time I leave my house, I'm wondering who's around the corner. You know, I never feel safe, not even in my own home, which is horrible. It's took a big toll on my mental health as well, especially where I felt so out of control of my own body. I feel like I don't have any control of any aspect of my life because it can be taken away from you so quickly.
Sadly, Abby is not alone. Over the past few weeks, we've had a huge spike in reports of asylum seeker and illegal migrant sex offences. Illegal migrants have been found guilty of murders, rapes and sexual assaults, almost always against young, vulnerable women and girls. Why can't we just say no? turn them back for the safety of our women and girls. Earlier today, Christopher Hope took Abi's story to the government, asking Paymaster General Nick Thomas-Symonds.
Stories are happening with alarming regularity. Are you failing to protect women? Should this man and others like him be deported?
Of course, people who commit the heinous crimes should be deported. And tribute to Abi, if I may, first of all, for being willing to speak out on GB News for what was obviously a terrible, terrible experience. It isn't easy to speak about trauma.
Well, it's not hard to see why they're coming. Illegal migrants are being given better dental care than you and me. Prime Minister, if you won't listen to us, listen to Abi.
If Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, or Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, were here in this room now, what would you say to them?
I'd want them to maybe rethink how much they're letting in, because, you know, it's affecting so many people, including myself, and it's...
Prime Minister, when is enough enough? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist, Adam Brooks, and journalist and broadcaster, Nina Mishkov. Oh, it's difficult in these shoes.
Yes, but it's worth the struggle.
I only use these for the studio. I can't walk with them otherwise. Look, I'm going to start with you, Mark Littlewood. We've heard a lot from our Labour government. They poo-pooed Rwanda. They poo-pooed everything that Conservatives did. Admittedly, the Conservatives didn't do much. They talked a good game. But now they've come up with their one in, one out and all the schemes, and nothing is working for them.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on how their progress is so far?
It's disastrous. I think I'm more than happy to take criticism of the last Conservative government as well, who I think had something approaching a plan, even though it had a lot of failings. The Rwanda plan had some downsides, but at least it was a plan. Unfortunately, this government's just got slogans, smash the gangs, as if by just repeating that enough, the gangs will be smashed. They seem to be almost wholly unwilling to change the law in any way that we need to change it. I think the Conservatives and Reform are now committed to a detain and deport policy, so we will not entertain your asylum claim if you arrive here illegally. We will find a way of detaining you and you will be leaving the country. The Labour government aren't touching that. They are hoping for a miracle. And when you occasionally hear Labour commentators saying, oh, well, look, the boat crossings are down today, it's down to the weather. Well, I mean, that's an act of God, not an act of policy. So there isn't a policy here, there isn't a strategy here. You highlighted the numbers already. This year's small boat crossings will be higher than last year's, so we are nowhere near stopping this. And next year will be no different, probably higher still. There's no plan, no strategy, no policy. Things will get worse.
Nina, when you hear of this, the story of Abi, this is something that, had that person not been here and come via the route they did, Abi would not be a victim. And she's not alone. There are loads of other people who are victims of sexual assaults from many of these small boat migrants and illegal migrants, asylum seekers and so on and so forth. Don't you think that now it is time to do something serious about stopping those boats?
Firstly, I'd like to say I think that Abi is a very brave young woman, as everybody else has said, because what she went through was a horrendous experience. And I'm not trying to belittle her experience, but this is something that's experienced throughout this country every day by all sorts of young women and girls and children from not just boat migrants. Let's not just concentrate on that. 6 out of 7 women in this country are raped by people they know. And she was saying she didn't feel safe at home. Well, and I can understand, because you would be completely traumatised. And I hope that she gets the help that she needs to help her through this stage of her life, and so she can move forward. But there are many people who are not safe in their own homes because they are sexually abused by people in the home or relatives or friends of the family. That is not to belittle what she went through. The thing is, you have to say that they are taking it seriously. Look at Shabana Mahmood. She has come in with great big hobnail boots on, and she has...
what, Nina?
She is making changes. The changes she is making are to the pull factor. So if you come as a migrant, you can't get benefits until you're a citizen. Now, you can't become a citizen, and they've extended that from 5 until 10 years. So that sort of thing is there. And also, they have...
What about the dental care, then? Yeah. That's a pull factor. Why would you do that? If you're trying to stop the boats, why would you give them dental care? And also, just to your previous point regarding the amount of sexual abusers and rapists who are already here, why do we want to add to that?
We don't want to add to that. And
we are.
No, I don't want to add to that. But the thing is, it is completely a drop in the ocean, literally, compared to... I'm saying, I agree. But the thing is, if we catastrophize this to the extent that people are terrified when they see somebody who looks like they come from the Middle East, then that is the wrong way to go.
Adam Brooks.
I was sitting here shaking my head with Nina. All of these crimes were avoidable because these men should not be in this country. We have had sex crimes recently from Egyptians, Moroccans, Pakistanis, Ethiopians. What war are in those countries?
English,
right?
French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese,
You're disgusting in this discussion.
USA.
To bring this up, you're disgusting your mindset in this. At the end of the day, Abby...
disgusting. Could you please take that back?
No.
Would you please take that back?
No, hold on, Adam.
Would you please take that back?
Nina has a point of view. We respect each other's point of view.
Well, I think it's a disgusting point of view because these are young girls. These are young girls being raped, sexually assaulted, abused, harassed. I live near Epping, yeah? So I'm on the Epping protests all the time. I speak to neighbours, women that have had things thrown at them. They've been spat at. They've been mooned on the fields. They've watched migrants defecate near their houses. We are funding the destruction of our communities via our taxes because our government is allowing people from Ethiopia. So when Kadush Habatu was convicted and then deported, we had to pay him, by the way.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he have been deported firstly? There is no danger in Ethiopia. There is no danger in Egypt or Morocco or Pakistan. Why are we tolerating these people coming over?
We have the ECHR, of course, which we must...
Other countries don't. Greece are turning the boats back, or they say if you come over illegally, we put you in a tent, or we will put you in prison for 5 years. Why can't we do that?
Mark Littlewood.
There's an interesting distinction here, and I'm going to try the impossible and build a bridge between Nina and Adam. Nina is correct that there is a lot of indigenous crime, and typically murders and violence are from people you know. And there are a large number of horrific dysfunctional households in which that happens.
We can't prevent that, Mark.
Well, my point is you need a different policy apparatus to tackle that. Domestic violence, fathers abusing their daughters, is a completely different category of things to people getting into the country who shouldn't be here and have no claim.
I agree with that.
If you tot up all of the statistics, you might be right that there are X number of rapes, X number of murders, and of course, the bulk of those will be carried out by the indigenous population because there are tens of millions.
Let's now talk about per capita.
Adam is right because this is a totally different category who should not be here. And also, that's the problem. They should not be here.
Per capita, they are disproportionately raping, sexually assaulting, harassing women. Foreign men are accounting for, I believe, up to a quarter of sex crimes in this country. Far more than the people that are here.
Shaking your head on that.
I would seriously question that figure. I would need to check it, but I would
from the police computer that was collated by Migration Watch or one of these Centre of Migration.
But I would like to point out that when you have to send somebody back, and they should, anybody who commits a crime who's come here not in the sort of the proper way should be on a plane, but you need someone at the other end to say, yes, we'll take them. So although we have arrangements with various countries, we don't have agreements that are legally binding. So where are you going to send them?
Well, we have Rwanda.
Rwanda was only going to work for 300 people. That's all. That's that plane.
You can leverage that.
If you're saying 300 people, what about one in, one out? That was literally 50 people.
That's an
1,000, and they were planning to expand it. And that was the same with Rwanda.
That's an experiment.
Well, so was Rwanda.
Yeah, well, I had a chat with the former head of Border Force last night, Tony Smith, who was pretty confident that Rwanda could have got up to 10,000. Right? Doesn't solve the whole issue. He had some other good ideas that with regards to, let's say, Pakistan or the other countries that Adam has correctly listed, which are not at war, you use maximum diplomatic pressure. So if Pakistan is not willing to take these people back, you block all visas to Pakistan,
but that's
for example. You certainly stop all foreign aid to Pakistan.
That's exactly what Shabana Mahmood has said.
But she said it. Why didn't she?
Because it needs. Look, she'd only come in 3 months ago. She can't wave a magic wand.
Well, Donald Trump seemed to manage it in days.
We're not living in America. We're not living under Trump.
Why hasn't she called in the Pakistani ambassador and cut this deal? It doesn't take 3 months. It takes 3 hours.
Look, I don't think it's that simple. If it would have been, it would have happened. And I would like to go back to the fact that...
Give Nina the final word.
I would like to go back to the fact, obviously, this is nobody disagrees the fact it's a small boat crisis, but these people are here, and the people who have committed crimes should be sent back. It is not as simple as saying that, and I think the government is doing the best they can.
Just the human rights of our women and our girls should trump the human rights of foreign people that come here. At the end of the day, I've got 2 daughters, and I'm petrified about the future that they are inheriting.
All right, thank you, Adam Brooks, Nina Michelle, and also Mark Littlewood. Thank you. Stay right with us, though, because it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win our biggest prize ever, £85,000. Lots of cash over Christmas. That could be yours. Here are the details.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays. Yes to treats. Yes to shopping trips. Yes to home improvements. What would you say yes to? For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Right, coming up, Wes Streeting backtracks on the puberty blocker trial.
No, it's not easy being a trans kid in our country today. The trans community is at the wrong end of all of the statistics for mental ill health, self-harm and suicide.
But up next, is it right for people on benefits to get a free TV licence? This is Patrick Christys tonight, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Evening all, this is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Nana Akwe, on GB News, and it's time now for our head-to-head. Now, Cultural Secretary Lisa Nandy is reported to be considering plans to give a free TV licence to those on benefits. The plan comes at a time of crisis for the BBC. President Trump has announced a multiple billion-dollar lawsuit, and confidence in the institution is failing. But with our benefits bill set to hit an extraordinary $378 billion, is the BBC essential for those on benefits? Well, to go head-to-head on this, I'm pleased to be joined by journalist and author Emma Wolfe and BBC contributor Andy Jones. Now, Emma, you seem to think this is a good idea.
I do think it's a good idea. I do think it's about inclusion. It's about keeping them, you know, you need to touch people and
wait there, Emma. We're going to go to Andy Jones. Andy Jones, is it a good idea or a bad idea?
Yeah, I totally understand, as Emma, I think, was saying there with a poor connection, was that we want to make sure that people have a cultural relationship with the rest of the world and they shouldn't be cut off. What I would say is I think working people are already getting a really hard kick-in from this government. Energy bills, average electricity bill is now, electricity alone is £1,000 a year. Unemployment is now up to about 5.1%. Inflation is high. Admittedly, it's going down. And then working people, what do they get? They look at migrants arriving and getting a free ride. And then you will say, obviously, look, you know, benefits, whether people are on benefits are paying for it out of their own money, their own taxpayer-given money, or whether the government then adds it on top, is still coming from the taxpayer. What I would say to that is currently, if somebody on benefits, a family on benefits, is getting, say, $20,000 a year, and they're making the choice to pay for that licence fee out of those benefits, that is still only costing the taxpayer, say, £20,000 for that family. If we're now giving a licence fee on top of all of those things, then it's £20,000 for that family plus the licence fee. And also, where does this free licence fee for people on benefits get the cut off? There's about 24 million people in the UK who take some form of benefit from the government, and if they all get a licence fee, I mean that's going to bankrupt. There's going to be several hundred billion more for the British government to solve.
Well, look, this is the thing, though. Some people would say that the cost of a TV licence, if you are unemployed, you've got nothing to do, really. It's good to be, I don't know, kept occupied, stops you from being isolated. Some people disabled and those like who are there, that may be a benefit. Surely you could argue that those kind of people definitely should get the free TV licence.
In some ways they should, but also if you're already getting a benefit, and let's look at the mobility allowance, where people have been given, say, a £30,000 new car, and they make the elective choice to take some of that out of their benefits or pay that on a sort of a lease that they pay out of their benefits. People have to make judgments as to what they want and what they don't want. If we're just giving everything to people for free, I don't think that they have that. I don't want to punish people on benefits. I don't want people to live in a cave and live on bread and water because they're in benefits. But equally, I don't think more working people should have to pay for this. We're already having to pay just to watch the TV. We're already paying a licence fee that no one else on earth pays. And I don't think that that's respected at all. And the Labour government talks about the squeezed middle. I mean, this is going to be the crushed middle. We're already paying for so much. The cost of living is already so high. And there's absolutely no benefit almost to going to work if you are on a minimum wage job. If you're on a minimum wage job or just above minimum wage, you're already earning so little compared to benefits that small things like £180 a year, without being dramatic, could actually just be, well, I'm better off being not in work.
Well, what about, I mean, there was a time when the pensioners didn't have to pay for it, and then some of them did. I don't know where they stand on that. I haven't seen them being mentioned on that. I wonder if they will get to their TV licence. At least for those people, they've definitely contributed for quite some time in their lives to be getting it, because a lot of them are claiming the state pension as well, or maybe some haven't. But, you know, when you get to a certain age, some might argue that having the BBC, having a free licence, will mean that some of those type of people can be connected. And if you're unemployed, it keeps you connected rather than just being isolated.
I do understand that. I do understand the argument that it keeps people connected, but equally, I don't think that having a free licence fee is particularly a necessary thing. I think one of the other things I'll talk about is with the BBC licence fee, they're talking about putting historic programmes and sort of retro programmes, whether it's Only Fools and Horses, Hello, whatever your TV show of choice is. Yeah. Behind a paywall. And then so again with the BBC, you've got to pay for content that as a historic licence fee payer, you've already paid for once or twice or three times over. And it does seem to me that the BBC are almost saying that actually the programmes that people want to watch are programmes from 20, 30, 40 years ago. And actually the new stuff that they're making, not all of it is flying, with some glorious exceptions like The Traitors and some of their nature programmes.
That'd be interesting. Some of the ones 20, 30, 40 years ago, I don't think that Love Thy Neighbour would be acceptable. Thank you very much, Andy Jones. Really good to talk to you, and also Emma Wolfe. Right, stay with us. Coming up.
And my message to resident doctors is don't abandon patients. Work with us to improve conditions and rebuild the NHS.
Next, tonight.
But this is not easy. And it is not a comfortable decision, and it's one that I wrestle with on a daily basis.
Maybe he could wrestle a little bit harder. Protests in Westminster today over the government's puberty blocker trial, set to begin in January. This is Patrick Christys tonight on GB News.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away for some sunshine? Well, it's quite wet actually across parts of Spain, Italy and France, as well as the Canary Islands. We've got some very unsettled weather, a risk of showers for Tenerife through Thursday, and a risk of outbreaks of heavy rain and thunderstorms spread across Spain, Italy and France through Thursday. It does look a little bit drier to end the week, and across eastern areas of the Mediterranean, there's plenty of dry weather to come through Friday and into the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Now, tomorrow will start dry for most of us, but there is more rain to come, and that rain is likely to be heavy in places. We have Met Office warnings in place for the rain. Initially caused by this weather front, it's been only slowly tracking its way across the country through the day today. Very wet still over Wales and southwest England, but it is turning drier here through this evening. That rain working into eastern parts of England, where it should also tend to fizzle through the early hours. Showers continue to pack in across much of western Scotland, but as I said, many places will become dry by the time we get to dawn as temperatures drop down into single figures, but generally that's still pretty mild for this time of year. So a largely dry, largely cloudy start. Should see some sunny spells across parts of Scotland in the morning. Quite grey though in the south, but the overnight rain may still be lingering across parts of Kent, and it won't be long before the next batch of rain arrives. For Northern Ireland, much of northern England, good part of Scotland, it's a dry, fine, bright start. There will be some showers just moving in across the northwest of Scotland. And then as we go through the day, the winds will strengthen and the next area of rain will arrive. Coming into the southwest of England, initially spreading right across the south of England, then into Wales. Brighter colours where we're seeing heavier rain, likely to cause further disruption. It's been very wet, of course, recently, so this extra rain may cause further flooding, certainly disruption on the transport network. A lot of spray, surface water on the roads. It all moves northward, so most places soggy by the end of the day. The exception may be northern Scotland. Also very gusty and blustery at times through tomorrow in the southwest. A bright breezy day though for Friday, something of a respite. Many places seeing sunny spells across England and Wales. A lot drier here. Still a fair few showers across northern Scotland and northern parts of Northern Ireland. But overall Friday is a drier day. But do look out for the heavy rain tonight and again tomorrow. Those Met Office yellow warnings are on the Met Office website.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Now, in January of next year, a puberty blocker trial, I'll get my teeth back in my mouth, will involve up to 200 children, some of them aged just 10. Now, the cost to the NHS is thought to be up to £10.7 million, but the cost of vulnerable children could be unimaginable. GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, was present at the demonstration today, calling for Health Secretary Wes Streeting to cancel the trial. She pointed to a counter-protest where a group of masked protesters hurled insults and swore at those who had turned up to demonstrate. GB News' presenter Miriam Cates was there at the protest to share her concerns about the impending trial.
Now, the Cass review was warmly received by gender-critical people, but unfortunately it did leave the door open for a trial like this. And what the protesters are calling on here today is Wes Streeting to stop this. This is not a medical question. Being born male, being born female is not a disease. We don't get to choose which sex we are. We do need to protect children who may choose a very different path later in life.
So with the fact that up to 50% come to regret having gender reassignment surgery and taking puberty blockers, do we really need another experiment on vulnerable children? Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by psychologist and social commentator Dr. Pam Spur. Pam, you were at the protest today. Talk to me about what you guys were saying and your thoughts on all of this, this trans experiment, which some people are calling it.
Well, it was really an exceptional demo with some excellent speakers, and Nana, they were right across the political spectrum. So we heard from all voices. One of the most moving was Rosie Duffield, who's now an independent MP, talked about the despair, really, that she was feeling, that the government was just ignoring the genuine fears we have for the damage this Pathways puberty blockers trial could do to confused children. She also expressed consternation about how many MPs, particularly Labour MPs, as she used to be one, would say to her they totally agreed with Rosie, but they're too scared still to speak out, Nana. So it's a real dilemma that parliamentarians are not speaking honestly about this. We also had an impassioned speech from Rupert Lowe, who talked about the evils that this could do to simply confused children. They are not medically ill. They do not need to be pumped full of hormones. That it truly was the captured of our institutions that had led to this. And I totally agree with him on that point, that all these to the schools, to our government, have been captured. There were also really great speeches from like Tom Tugendhat, came to speak, and he apologized for being late to this fight, and also talked about the fact that, these are just confused children who are facing puberty. And Nana, if I can give you the research statistics, up to 77% of young children feel anxious and awkward when they start going through puberty. Now, add into that a number of comorbidities, like if they've been bullied, or if they've had trauma, or if they have internalized homophobia, or if they're on the spectrum, then they are primed to be groomed into this belief that maybe they're in the wrong body, and what they need is something like to go on this path of medicalization. Now, Kate Barker of the LGBT Alliance pointed out that, once upon a time, LGBT children could just grow up to be LGBT children, and that we needed to encourage children nowadays just to be happy to be LGBT if they happen to be lesbian, gay, or bisexual. And also we had comments, I'm just checking my notes because there were so many great speakers. Helen Joyce of Sex Matters made the crucial point that a lot of these children who are supposedly giving their consent, do they know they're consenting to negative impact on their brain?
That's Dr. Pam Spur. You're coming in and out. Pam, you're coming in and out, but just finish that point. Brain development you were talking about, yeah.
So Helen Joyce was making these points about, can these young children, some as young as 8 will be in this trial, can they actually consent to the knowledge that they may be damaged by taking these puberty blockers, which are known to negatively impact brain function? A sexual dysfunction is the result of taking them. Osteoporosis down the line, but certainly bone density gets affected. So a lot of these speakers made really critical points that we hope the Pathways trial that the government is running through King's College, that the government will stop it. We do not need these children to be guinea pigs when there have been 2,000 plus children in this country who've already been put on puberty blockers before the ban on it for under 18s. And we want the government to get that information from what's happened to those children today. How well are they? How did they do? What impact did it have on them? The government can just do that and does not need to treat our British children as guinea pigs in this new Pathways trial.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Pam Spur, psychologist and social commentator. Thank you so much. Right, let's get the thoughts of my panel. Nina, you've heard that. Surely you can't be in support of puberty blockers to people as young as, say, 8, 10, or actually to any adolescent who is growing, feeling that maybe they are in the wrong body, as it were.
I feel it's a very, very tricky subject. It's very difficult, and I agree that a child does not have the capability to make a valid, decision about this, because they're children. That's not right. I also have to balance the fact that the people that I have talked to, that I know, who felt they had grown up in the wrong body, felt that from a very young age, a very, very young age. And I think also exacerbated by social media. I think that has given people access to a world where it kind of snowballs.
But 8 and 10-year-olds
I agree. I think it's right. We live quite near the Tavistock Clinic, which has fortunately been shut down, and I think Wes Streeting should reconsider. I really do.
Adam Brooks.
Again, I've got 3 kids. There is no such thing as a trans child. There are mentally ill children, autistic children that are being placed in these clinics as an easy way out. The CAS report even said that many of these kids have mental health problems or autism. At the end of the day, you cannot change your sex or gender. You are a boy or a girl, a man or a woman at the end of the day. Wes Streeting, if he allows this to go ahead, is an utter disgrace, in my opinion. This is Frankenstein healthcare, and it is child abuse. At the end of the day, parents, some of these parents, you only have to look at Hollywood. They've got their trans kid like a fashion accessory. It's become the latest trend. You know, the cool parents down the school with the trans kid. That kid would never have been trans if they wasn't pushed by their parents. I think there are warped doctors, there are warped healthcare professionals and warped parents. And we need to look at this because kids need to be safeguarded. Again, there is no such thing as trans children.
I'm absolutely astonished. You would think that parents would push their children towards this.
It's a fact, Nina.
It's not a fact.
Yes, it is.
It's not a fact. Why?
Look at Hollywood. Look at the disproportionate amount of Hollywood actors and actresses with trans children. That's impossible. The odds on that is impossible.
It's not the odds on that. I think that parents actually support their children in their quest, rightly or wrongly, because they are so desperate to make their children happy.
I would get my kid mental health help.
And I think they hopefully would get help. But I think that you have to recognise that there are people who are born and who do not grow in the same way mentally that we do.
Cannot be born in the wrong body.
Unlike Nina, I don't think this is a very tricky issue. I think it is a black and white issue. For children, there should be no medical experimentation here whatsoever. They can't possibly consent to it. And this is not a life or death matter.
No, but we're all in agreement about that.
So these should be banned. And what would the success of this experiment look like, I ask myself? So I'm not really sure what we're experimenting on. If you're looking at a whole bunch of kids who've got, say, leukemia, you might have some trials, but this is not a life or death matter. It should be stopped immediately.
All right, Mark Littlewood, thank you very much. Also, Adam Brooks and Nina Mishkow. Coming up, this is Patrick Christy Tonight, only on GB News. Oh, and there's still time to get your ticket to join Patrick's Friday night audience.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here to GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Welcome to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Nana Akwe. Now, this morning at 7 a.m, a 5-day strike by resident doctors began. Yes, the loss of thousands of doctors amidst a flu outbreak in the run-up to Christmas. What could possibly go wrong? When the British Medical Association put new terms to their members last week, 83% of those who took part rejected the terms. Now, this included promising emergency legislation that would have given the priority for training places to UK graduates. This, by the way, is on top of the 28% pay rise they've recently received. And when quizzed with this over this week, how gutted he felt about the strikes, the Prime Minister replied 10 out of 10. But listen to what Kemi Badenoch said today at PMQs.
This morning, they've gone back on strike for the third time, in the middle of winter, in the middle of the worst flu crisis in years. Mr. Speaker, this shouldn't be allowed. We already banned strikes by the police and the army. Why doesn't he put patients first, show some backbone, and ban doctors' strikes?
So should doctors even have a right to strike? Is this industrial action fair, or is it just the height of irresponsibility? Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by Dr. Andrew Vallance-Owen. He's the former medical director and chief medical officer at Bupa. OK, Andrew, surely this is super irresponsible of the doctors to do this. They've had a huge pay rise, bigger than anybody else. And right now, to do it at this moment is kind of, I mean, call it greedy.
Yeah, no. Well, you've used that word, but absolutely, it's wholly irresponsible. They, as you say, they've had the biggest pay award. I think it's the height of selfishness. Actually, they're being selfish about their patients, who are now going to have trouble, being treated. They're selfish about their colleagues on the staff who are going to have to stay in for the 5 days. And they're selfish also in that they have already had a big pay rise, and if they get a bigger pay rise, it will be taken out of nurses and other people on the front line. So I think it's selfish. I think it's immature. Actually, I think these young people who sometimes you see clotting around on the picket lines, laughing away as if it was a sort of a joke or it was a bit of fun. This is serious matter. They're causing huge havoc in the National Health Service, and it's a sort of me thing, I'm afraid. We're taught in medicine it's not about yourself, it's not about us, it's about the patients we serve. We're in a service profession, and that seems to be completely forgotten in this strike. I'm really very, very sad. And I was myself a BMA negotiator for the junior doctors way back in the early 80s, and we negotiated, and we sort of came and went, but we never considered going out on strike.
They keep sort of trying to make out that this is not about money, this is about places for doctors, which I get, I would like to see the qualified doctors take the places. A lot of people argue, oh, it's great that our NHS is staffed with people from abroad. I don't think that is great at all. It'd be better if people from the UK staffed our NHS as the majority. But then every time, even when they were kind of offered a few kind of extra, they then harped on back about the money again.
Yeah. I mean, part of the offer that Wes Streeting has made includes giving priority to English doctors. Obviously, there should be a degree of priority. We've put more students through our medical schools. Here they are coming through into just starting their clinical practice and finding there aren't enough jobs for them. We never had that when we were young doctors. There was always a job in those early years that we knew we could go into. And I mean, this has been going back a long time, and sadly, the mistakes were made years ago when we started cutting back the numbers of medical students, thinking that the patients were going to be, there wasn't going to need so many hospitals, and those were mistakes that were made. And I just think it's very, very sad, and I just hope that more of them come to their senses and realise the damage that they're doing and become less selfish and, go back despite the requirements. They're being led by idealists, perhaps, in the BMA, and there aren't many of those out on the picket lines today. So that would be my hope, that they would see what they ought to be doing, servicing their patients, and go back.
And what bit about this don't they get as well? Because doctors have a fabulous pension. The contribution from the state is about 23%. If you work in an office and it's a private employer, they'll contribute about 3%. So it's an income that goes up. You know it does. There are pay review bodies who will look and make sure that your pay is in line, at least with inflation and all those kind of things. That doesn't happen in the private sector. They're blessed they don't get it.
They get a gold-plated pension. I think they'll come out, someone was saying the other day, 125,000 or something like that they'll be earning from their pension. Someone else was writing saying, well, in that case, if they want to have more money, take away their pension. But they don't want that either, of course.
No, of course not. No.
And they're very lucky, actually, to be working in the National Health Service, to have gone through their medical school wanting to treat patients, and it's such a shame that they now, some of them are straight out of medical school. They've barely even started as doctors yet. The BMA say a whole lot of new students just arriving, and what can they be moaning about? I mean, here they are having earned nothing in university, and now they're earning quite a good salary, and they're straight away on strike. I mean, what is going on, really? I think that's the worry. What is it that's leading them down this completely unprofessional path?
Well, they might argue that perhaps they want to see better workings of the NHS, but what they're doing isn't really contributing to it. Listen, if you could say one thing to those junior doctors, what would it be?
I would say, remember what you wanted to do when you came into medicine. Remember what you were looking to do. And I don't think it was that you were looking for money. You were looking to try and help patients who came to you with conditions and to improve their quality of life. And remember that now, and go back and do what you really wanted to do, rather than being diverted by the leadership of the BMA at this time.
All right, well, listen, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That was Dr. Andrew Vallance-Owen. He's a former medical director and chief medical officer at Bupa. Thank you so much. Coming up, though, stay with us, because coming up, a new definition for Islamophobia. Is that really needed? Why do we need to do that? Why is it so important that we need to have a specific definition? Won't it? Stay tuned. That and more coming up after your all-important weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Now, tomorrow will start dry for most of us, but there is more rain to come, and that rain is likely to be heavy in places. We have Met Office warnings in place for the rain. Initially caused by this weather front, it's been only slowly tracking its way across the country through the day today. Very wet still over Wales and southwest England, but it is turning drier here through this evening. That rain working into eastern parts of England, where it should also tend to fizzle through the early hours. Showers continue to pack in across much of western Scotland, but as I said, many places will become dry by the time we get to dawn as temperatures drop down into single figures, but generally that's still pretty mild for this time of year. So a largely dry, largely cloudy start. Should see some sunny spells across parts of Scotland in the morning. Quite grey though in the south, but the overnight rain may still be lingering across parts of Kent, and it won't be long before the next batch of rain arrives. For Northern Ireland, much of Northern England, good part of Scotland, it's a dry, fine, bright start. There will be some showers just moving in across the northwest of Scotland. And then as we go through the day, the winds will strengthen and the next area of rain will arrive. Coming into the southwest of England, initially spreading right across the south of England, then into Wales. Brighter colours where we're seeing heavier rain, likely to cause further disruption. It's been very wet, of course, recently, so this extra rain may cause further flooding. Certainly disruption on the transport network. A lot of spray, surface water on the roads. It all moves northward, so most places soggy by the end of the day. The exception may be northern Scotland. Also very gusty and blustery times through tomorrow in the southwest. A bright breezy day though for Friday, something of a respite. Many places seeing sunny spells across England and Wales. A lot drier here. Still a fair few showers across northern Scotland and northern parts of Northern Ireland. But overall Friday is a drier day. But do look out for the heavy rain tonight and again tomorrow. Those Met Office yellow warnings are on the Met Office website.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Good evening, it's just coming up to 10 o'clock. I'm Nana Akwe, stepping in for Patrick Christys. This is Patrick Christys Tonight.
He promised that he would stop the boats this year.
I think the way to stop the boats is to smash the criminal gangs, people crossing in small boats across the channel. We have to stop that.
Broken promise after broken promise, the Prime Minister's failure to stop the boats has a real-world impact. Plus,
BBC is not just a broadcaster. It is a national institution that belongs to us all.
Benefits Britain. Is it right for those on benefits to get a free licence fee? And
but this is not easy and it is not a comfortable decision, and it's one that I wrestle with on a daily basis.
Protests in Westminster today over the government's puberty blocker trial set to begin in January.
Free, free! Free, free! Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death to the IDF! Death to the IDF!
Yeah. Terrible. Police, wow, they vow to finally crack down on so-called pro-Palestine protests and anyone chanting globalise the Intifada. Plus,
do not have a blasphemy law in this country, and we must not ever. It's really important that we have freedom of religion in this country as well as freedom of speech.
Labour's new Islamophobia definition is revealed, and it's worse than anyone could have imagined. Plus,
My message to resident doctors is don't abandon patients, work with us to improve conditions and rebuild the NHS.
The Prime Minister lashes out at doctors as they continue their planned strike action over Christmas. Well, on my panel tonight, we've got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. And Islamophobia. Do we really need a definition? Next.
Very good evening to you. It's 2 minutes past 10. Our headlines. 2 people have been arrested at a pro-Palestinian protest in London after shouting slogans involving calls for an intifada, an Arabic word for uprising. The arrests mark a change in approach from police in London and Manchester, who earlier announced they'd be taking a more assertive approach in how they deal with demonstrations following deadly anti-Semitic attacks in Sydney and Manchester, saying the context has changed, words have meaning and consequence. Jewish groups have welcomed the move, but say they have been calling for stronger action since the October the 7th attacks of 2023, and that pro-Palestinian protests have helped to incite violence against their community. The Health Secretary says he deeply regrets the impact the latest strike by resident doctors will have in the lead up to Christmas. NHS England says non-urgent services will be affected by the 5-day walkout, which they say have come at the worst possible time for the health service. Wes Streeting has apologised directly to patients for the disruption.
We did everything we could to avert these strikes, even meeting for hours with BMA officials yesterday to see if even at the 11th hour we could avert the strikes. After constructive discussions, we still weren't able to persuade the BMA either to come into negotiations or indeed to delay strikes to January as I had offered. Our entire focus now is on keeping patients safe.
Sir Keir Starmer's threatened to seize £2.5 billion in proceeds from the sale of Chelsea Football Club from Roman Abramovich to support Ukraine's war efforts. Sanctions were imposed on Abramovich after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Well, the government says it's issued a licence that permits the transfer of funds into a new humanitarian account for Ukraine. The Prime Minister has warned the oligarch the clock is ticking. The UK is to rejoin the Erasmus Student Exchange Scheme from 2027, 6 years after ending its participation as part of Brexit. It will give British students the opportunity to study, train or volunteer in EU countries as part of their degree courses without paying extra fees. And it's the same offer in reverse for Europeans. Downing Street's described the £570 million cost as a good deal, insisting Britain secured a 30% reduction in fees. Paymaster General Nick Thomas-Symonds has denied the move is a betrayal of Brexit.
What this is about is opportunities for people here in the UK. It certainly isn't a betrayal at all. We said in our manifesto that we wouldn't rejoin the single market or the customs union or go back to freedom of movement. And I've absolutely negotiated within that framework.
And the Celtic chairman, Peter Lowell, is to step down from the club's board after what he's described as intolerable abuse and threats. Lowell spent 18 years at the club as chief executive until 2021, and he spent the last 3 years as chairman. Fans, though, have voiced their displeasure following Celtic's exit from the Champions League, a disappointing summer transfer window, and their poor league campaign. They are currently behind Hearts in the Scottish Premiership. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 11.
It's time to buckle up for a free speech fight. Labour is reportedly close to finalising their watered-down definition of Islamophobia. According to The Telegraph, Steve Reid, the Community Secretary's new definition, will be designed to tackle anti-Muslim hatred. Now, this is a marked contrast from Labour's controversial 2019 definition of Islamophobia. Under that definition, anyone using the phrases Muslim grooming gangs and Asian grooming gangs was an Islamophobe. But is this now simply a virtue signalling exercise, a Trojan horse definition to usher in new blasphemy laws? The announcement has been delayed tragically after 15 Jews were murdered over the weekend in a vile anti-Semitic attack by Islamic terrorists on Bondi Beach in Sydney. The government claims the terminology is aimed to provide guidance for behaviour codes that public bodies, councils and businesses can adopt. You decide. Here is some of the proposed new wording. Anti-Muslim hostility is engaging in or encouraging criminal acts, including acts of violence, vandalism of property and harassment and intimidation directed at Muslims or those perceived to be Muslims because of their religion, ethnicity or appearance. It goes on. It is also the prejudicial stereotyping and racialisation of Muslims as part of a collective group with set characteristics to stir up hatred against them, irrespective of their actual opinions, beliefs or actions as individuals. Now, that might seem reasonable at face value, but just because it improves on the previous definition doesn't mean that it won't have a chilling effect on free speech. As Toby Young from the Free Speech Union warns, it is simple, unnecessary. It is already a criminal offence to stir up religious hatred or discriminate against people on the basis of their religion or belief. As Lord Young says, news organisations might now need to think twice before mentioning the religion of the father and son terrorists in the Sydney incident this weekend, or the prejudicial stereotyping could inhibit a social worker or a teacher in a Muslim area from drawing attention to issues such as sexual exploitation, forced marriages or even grooming gangs. But fundamentally, especially in the aftermath of the horrific rise in anti-Semitism, does one religion need such a privileged status? The real question is, why do we actually need a definition at all? But let's get the thoughts of my panel. Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. I think I've got the walk down to a T. Right, I'm going to start with you. Adam Brooks, do we really need a definition for Islamophobia?
No. Why should one religion have extra protections over others? I've sat on this sofa for 4 years. I've mentioned the Church of England, Catholic priests and religion for the child sex abuse within the church. I've called out the Archbishop. I've called out the church for covering up this child abuse. Does that make me a Christianophobe? No, it doesn't. I'm an atheist. But why should one religion have extra protections? If we talk about immigration and maybe the migrant hotels, yes, many of them turn out to be Muslim. We're not outside protesting because of their faith, but things like this could turn that into like an Islamophobe offence. It's not the case. I do worry about free speech. There is no need. As you said, there's already a law that protects people from being targeted for their religion. I'm an atheist, but I believe people's right to believe in whatever they want and to be able to practice their faith wherever they want. There is nothing Islamophobic about calling out grooming gangs or rape gangs where the people were Muslims. So at the end of the day, we have to be very careful that this isn't a shield to people that want to use it to stop any criticism of people within their community.
I guess the worry is that when you say, you use the phrase Muslim, it kind of encompasses everyone who is Muslim, and in a way that sort of then can put a negative light on the Muslim faith. Nina?
I guess it can. I mean, I've said many times on this sofa that I think religion is the basis of pretty much all of the world's problems, actually, when you count it through the centuries. I think this is just semantics. I don't understand what the problem is. You know, and actually the word Islamophobia is wrong because it's not a phobia of Islam. When they're talking about a hatred of Islam. It's like saying, you're anti-Semitic, you're Semite-phobic. I mean, do you see what I mean?
So even the word Islamophobic is almost a non-entity.
Yes, absolutely. But they're not using Islam. They've said that they've had a draft report out, and they're not going to be using the word Islamophobic. So I don't see what the problem is.
Mark, do you see the need for a definition?
No. What's the problem they're trying to solve? So you read out, Nada, this new supposed definition, and I rather agreed with Toby Young's response from the Free Speech Union. The first part of it, you know, you mustn't go and practice physical violence against Muslims or burn down their property, well, that's illegal anyway. The second part of it was a bit of very dangerous word salad, which is that you mustn't dismiss these people as a cohort or stereotype them or the rest of it. Well, I think you are entitled to do that. It might be in slightly bad taste, but it's reasonable to do that. I was thinking of 2 Monty Python sketches. I mean, one movie, The Life of Brian, obviously ridicules Christianity, but in another Monty Python movie, they ridicule both Protestants and Catholics as cohorts, and they assume certain stereotypes about Protestants and Catholics. The Charlie Hebdo cartoons, I think, would fall foul of this definition very properly. They would probably be categorised as Islamophobic, could well be. And I remember all of our Western leaders saying, "Je suis Charlie," and standing up for free speech. Well, precious little good that this has got us. We don't need any of these laws anywhere near the statute books. There is no problem to be solved here that is not already covered by existing law.
But the thing is, people who call, and I am a huge believer in free speech, but it seems to me that in practical terms, many people who call for free speech, and I'm not saying anybody on this sofa, are people who want to stifle the views that are different to their own. Look what's happening in America. Look at Trump. These new laws on your visa form, where they're going to look at all the social media, what you've said. That he's not looking for terrorists, because nobody's going to be declaring themselves a terrorist on Facebook. They want to know whether you're anti-America or you've made any rude comments about Trump.
Yeah, but hang on.
That's free. That's free speech.
There's a big difference there. Because
then they'd have to get a lot of the Labour Party out, wouldn't they?
Well, most people, I would have thought.
There is a big difference here, even though I do have some concerns about what the Trump administration's doing. That you can monitor what people have said if they are applying for a particular privilege, such as I wish to come to the United States of America. Then you can sort of check, are you conducive to the public good? Because you're applying for a privilege. However, if you're in the United States of America and you ridicule Donald Trump, there is no penalty whatsoever. Once you're there, you can take the mick out of him, you can dress up as him, you can caricature him, and your First Amendment rights are protected. So it's only being clamped down there if you are applying for a particular privilege. It's a bit like an employer going through what you've said in the public domain.
There's a crack in the door. Look what happened to Stephen Colbert. He was cancelled and then brought back. But if that can happen once, then it can happen again.
Well, that was on the grounds that he'd said something wholly untrue.
But let's remember, the last 2 years we've had anti-Semitism on the streets of London, blatant anti-Semitism, right? But because there is only 300,000 Jewish people or 400,000 in this country, it is half swept under the carpet. There's 6 million Muslim people in this country. Now, Labour know that and they want the votes. So I believe they are pandering to a community for their votes. And I think this is virtue signalling.
But then anti-Muslim, since the Southport horror, anti-Muslim hatred.
And so is anti-Semitism.
Absolutely. So this is awful. So you have two sides
here. So bring in a law that protects people's religions as a whole, not one religion.
Exactly. I think that's the key point. Why would you single out Islam? What about Christianity? What about Judaism? What about Jehovah's Witnesses? What about the Church of Scientology? Why, if you're going to protect people from ridicule and so-called hatred or being characterised as a cohort, why does it only apply to Muslims?
I could mock the church.
Any faith.
I could mock the church, mock the Bible on this channel. Nothing could ever happen to me. Nothing.
Or Buddhism, or Sufism.
I could mock Christianity, and nothing will happen. I will not get a knock on the door. But certain other religions, you get something wrong or you say the wrong thing, even by mistake, you can get a knock on the door. That's not free speech at all.
And there should not be special protection for one religion. There should not be special protection.
But if you think about it, you've got anti-Semitism, so there's a definition in a sense for that. Some people might argue that if you've got a definition for anti-Semitism, then why have you not got a definition for Islam?
But there's no particular legal I mean, I would actually remove hate laws, right? I mean, I don't really care about your motive. Whether you've, punched me in the face because I'm white or black or Jewish or not Jewish or Catholic or Christian, I don't really care about your motive. So anti-Semitism is not defined as a specifically different criminal offence. It's just a term that we use for the hatred of Jews. But there's not a particular anti-Semitism law. It's covered by general racial hatred laws. And then if you are, talking about globalising the Intifada, I guess that could be covered by terrorism laws. There's not a specific carve-out for the Jewish community. It's just a term to explain the horrible hatred.
All religions should be equal. All religions should
and
be
no
equal.
special privileges.
Exactly.
I think all religions should be banned, frankly.
Banned? Wow.
I'm with John and Yoko. Imagine, I said this before, imagine a world with no religion. Perfect.
Do you think that this is a way of sort of blasphemy laws kind of coming through the back door?
Well, it is a blasphemy law, isn't it? There's no two ways of... that second part of it, there's no two ways to interpret it. That you cannot ridicule or show, spite to, or even hatred towards, or, a particular cohort based on their religion. That is a blasphemy law.
Isn't the problem of it as well that it's so wide, the interpretation, where you draw the line and where I draw the line might be somewhere else? So who's going to draw the line?
Yeah, well, that's why it should be left up to polite society, not to the criminal law. If somebody says something untoward, the way to correct it is that their peers, colleagues, friends and families say, that was the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
Not that Plod knocks on your door at 3 o'clock in the morning and looks through what else is on your bookshelf. That is not the way to police it. We need to police this ourselves as a polite, liberal society.
I think we're all agreed here. Anyone that is hateful towards someone for their religion, is wrong. If you want to, attack someone for their beliefs, that's wrong. And we do not need a special treatment for one religion.
I wonder why the Labour government are bringing it in then. Yeah. Why do you think? Maybe because there's 6 million Muslims, perhaps? Maybe they're looking for their vote. Thank you, Nina, Adam and Mark. But it's now time for the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year, £85,000. That could be yours. Here are the details.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. What would you say yes to? For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Coming up, tomorrow's front pages today, plus...
West Bank, Gaza, it's about time we globalise the Intifada!
And next, police are finally cracking down on pro-Palestine protests.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Matt. Let's hear now from the King.
This is a season when our thoughts turn to celebrations with our friends and families. In the midst of this festive period, I just wanted to ask you to join me today in finding a special place in your hearts and your minds and prayers for the hundreds of thousands of people across our United Kingdom who receive a cancer diagnosis each year, and for the millions more who love and care for them. I know from my own experience that a cancer diagnosis can feel overwhelming. Yet I also know that early detection is the key that can transform treatment journeys, giving invaluable time to medical teams and to their patients the precious gift of hope. These are gifts we can all help deliver. Throughout my own cancer journey, I've been profoundly moved by what I can only call the community of care that surrounds every cancer patient. The specialists, the nurses, researchers and volunteers who work tirelessly to save and improve lives. But I have also learned something that troubles me deeply. At least 9 million people in our country are not up to date with the cancer screenings available to them. When bowel cancer is caught at the earliest stage, around 9 in 10 people survive for at least 5 years. When diagnosed late, that falls to just 1 in 10. Early diagnosis, quite simply, saves lives.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Remember this guy?
West Bank, Gaza, it's about time we globalise the Intifada!
That was the current head of the National Education Union, Daniel Kabidi, back at a rally in 2021 before he took on his new position. But today, the Met Police have announced a crackdown.
Words have meanings. Words have consequences. We will act decisively. We will make arrests.
Yes, 2 years later. Now people holding placards or chanting the phrase globalise the Intifada, the Arabic word for uprising, will now be arrested. Of course, it follows the recent spate of anti-Semitic attacks here in the UK and abroad. Speaking today, the London and Greater Manchester Police also said that they'll be stepping up protective patrols and security measures at schools and synagogues. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by journalist Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, welcome to the programme. He said that they're going to take decisive action. Seems a little bit too late. I mean, a little too late, surely. All these pro-Palestine protests have been going on for 2 years. We've had people shouting death to the IDF on stage, on the BBC of all people, I mean, of all places. Does this feel like too little too late?
The decision to arrest people chanting globalise the Intifada isn't really a response to a changed context like the police are claiming, but it's actually a late admission that the authorities have ignored openly violent slogans like that for years, and what's really made them change their mind is bloodshed. 15 dead people, including a 10-year-old in Australia. Suddenly, they begin to understand what it means to globalise the Intifada. And of course, anyone who had their eyes open and who was being reasonable and honest about this in the beginning knew exactly what that meant. The first Intifada began in 1987 and ran into the early 1990s. It was marked by sustained Palestinian violence against Israeli civilians and soldiers. That's stabbings, shootings, lynchings, petrol bombs, mass unrest, also organised incitement and mobilisation like we're seeing in our streets here in the UK. And then the second Intifada from 2000 to around 2005, far more lethal. That was defined by waves of suicide bombings, people blowing up buses, restaurants, nightclubs, shootings, coordinated terror attacks. They deliberately targeted civilians and restaurants and cafes across city centres. And across both these periods, thousands were injured and over 1,000 Israelis were killed. And that is exactly what people have been calling for here in the UK. And only now, after the Bondi Beach massacre, our police beginning to say that they understand what that means. It's absolutely pathetic and shameful.
It seems pathetic and shameful, and it just does seem like a little bit too late. Do you think that this sort of poison can be dealt with now? Do you think that it's gone too far?
of course, it can be dealt with now, and of course, it's gone too far. 2 people were killed on Yom Kippur at a synagogue, and there is a direct line between this kind of incitement and the kind of mob protests and mob behaviour being carried out across the UK, organised by groups like the Palestine Solidarity Campaign and Palestine Action, which has now been labelled a terrorist organisation in this country. Who is funding those groups? Very expensive to put on those sorts of mass rallies. Who is encouraging this behaviour? Why is the police, why have our politicians been turning a blind eye to this slow ratcheting up of hatred against Jewish people and, frankly, against British people, against Westerners, against our way of life? It's a form of anarchy that has been allowed to spread. They've turned a blind eye, and this kind of permission to behave that way only leads in one direction. It's exactly what happened in Israel. We saw it starting with protests and unrest, and even the Israelis themselves were too lenient on it, and eventually we saw where that leads on October the 7th, 2023, and I'm sorry to say that that is where it will lead here in the UK as well if it goes unchecked. So it is good that these 2 police forces have now said that they will start to arrest, though it's not clear that the Met are actually going to arrest straight away, that they may in fact be taking advice from the CPS first. Greater Manchester Police have said they will. What about West Midlands Police? How come they're not agreed to have signed up to this? This is very disjointed, it's pathetic, it's too slow, it needs to be happening faster. No more Jewish lives should be spent, no more blood needs to be spilled, and it's not just Jews. We've seen the spread of this kind of violence and terrorism, this kind of Muslim terrorism in Manchester Arena, London Bridge. We've seen people like Mike Freer have his office burnt down. We've seen again and again and again attacks on our way of life, and the police and the authorities and the politicians saying things like, well, jihad has a multitude of meanings. I mean, is jihad also going to be finally treated as it should have been all along, as well as calls for globalising the Intifada? It's just so little, so late.
Why do you think, though, it took them so long to deal with it? Do you think that they were scared? Because, you know, if you say something bad, certain faith groups are not happy with what you say. There are a minority of those within those certain faith groups who may well take action against you.
Well, let's think about that logically. If you think that calling out such chants and movements and action which are leading towards and calling for the killing of Jewish people in the UK, if you think that's going to upset Muslims in the UK, I would say that is a pretty racist or anti-Muslim or negative or discriminatory opinion of all Muslims in the UK. So you've got a problem there. Either you believe, if that's the authorities' position, that all Muslims are behind that kind of behaviour, or you believe that they're not, but you're failing to protect those who aren't because you're terrified as the decision makers of those who are in favour of violence, of the Islamists within Islam. So either way, again, what we're seeing is weak and pathetic politicians and leaders, and weakness is the thing that leads towards more of this behaviour, not less. In the face of that weakness, we will see more and more of these protests, these mobs, these violent actions, these calls for violence, these calls for murder, these calls for bloodshed, and that will lead to action, that will lead to murder and bloodshed and violence, and we have seen it. 2 people dead in Manchester in a synagogue, 15 people dead on Bondi Beach, many Jews over the last few decades killed across Europe, whether it's been in France or in Brussels, wherever it goes on. We've even seen a Jewish man killed now in the last few days in the United States, believed to be because of his religion. This sort of stuff needs to be stopped across the world. The West needs to really understand the problem that it's imported from the Middle East, from the Muslim Brotherhood. The problem that it's imported is indeed this spread of intifada, this desire to spread violence against Jews and non-Muslims, against the West, against our values. Yes, bravo if they're going to finally start arresting people calling for the death of Jews, i.e. globalising the Intifada. But it can't just be that. It needs to be so much more. When it was revealed in the last sort of few months of 2023, I think it was in November, there was that footage that was broadcast on TV of speeches and sermons in mosques in the UK calling for violence against Jews and against Israel, calling for death. I don't believe anybody was arrested or put in jail for those things. I don't think anything was done about that. This just needs to be firmly stopped across the board using existing laws. There are existing laws against inciting violence and murder and bloodshed against Jewish people, against non-Muslims, against Brits. It just needs to be applied properly. Less cowardice, more action.
And I guess on some of those protests, and a lot of those protests, many were calling for peace, but however they were in a protest of people who were chanting "Mobilise the Intifada" and all that kind of stuff.
I never heard them calling for peace, by the way. I never heard them calling for peace. I never.
Well, some people would say that, but when you ask some people, they say that there were some Jewish people on the protest, and they often say that we were just because of all the people dying in Gaza, which is totally understandable. That you might be upset about that. But when you're part of a protest where there are some people chanting evil things, then if you're not part of the problem, you're part of the... If you're not part of the solution even, you're part of the problem. Jonathan Sacerdoti, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is Jonathan Sacerdoti. He's a journalist. But up next, our return to the European Erasmus scheme could cost £8 billion. This is Patrick Christys tonight, only on GB News.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away for some sunshine? Well, it's quite wet actually across parts of Spain, Italy and France, as well as the Canary Islands. We've got some very unsettled weather, a risk of showers for Tenerife through Thursday and a risk of outbreaks of heavy rain and thunderstorms spread across Spain, Italy and France through Thursday. It does look a little bit drier to end the week, and across eastern areas of the Mediterranean, there's plenty of dry weather to come through Friday and into the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Now, tomorrow will start dry for most of us, but there is more rain to come, and that rain is likely to be heavy in places. We have Met Office warnings in place for the rain. Initially caused by this weather front, it's been only slowly tracking its way across the country through the day today. Very wet still over Wales and southwest England, but it is turning drier here through this evening. That rain working into eastern parts of England, where it should also tend to fizzle through the early hours. Showers continue to pack in across much of western Scotland, but as I said, many places will become dry by the time we get to dawn as temperatures drop down into single figures, but generally that's still pretty mild for this time of year. So a largely dry, largely cloudy start. Should see some sunny spells across parts of Scotland in the morning. Quite grey though in the south, but the overnight rain may still be lingering across parts of Kent, and it won't be long before the next batch of rain arrives. For Northern Ireland, much of Northern England, good part of Scotland, it's a dry, fine, bright start. There will be some showers just moving in across the northwest of Scotland. And then as we go through the day, the winds will strengthen and the next area of rain will arrive. Coming into the southwest of England, initially spreading right across the south of England, then into Wales. Brighter colours where we're seeing heavier rain, likely to cause further disruption. It's been very wet, of course, recently, so this extra rain may cause further flooding, certainly disruption on the transport network. A lot of spray, surface water on the roads. It all moves northward, so most places soggy by the end of the day. The exception may be northern Scotland. Also very gusty and blustery times through tomorrow in the southwest. A bright breezy day though for Friday, something of a respite. Many places seeing sunny spells across England and Wales. A lot drier here. Still a fair few showers across northern Scotland and northern parts of Northern Ireland. But overall Friday is a drier day. But do look out for the heavy rain tonight and again tomorrow. Those Met Office yellow warnings are on the Met Office website.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Patrick Christys tonight on GB News with me, Nana Aquia. Right, let's have a quick look at the papers. We'll start with the Metro. Starmer in £2.5 billion Chelsea transfer rate. Of course, that's to do with Abramovich. They're trying to get hold of his money, and Keir Starmer has talked about legal action. Let's look at The Guardian, the top front page there. We've got Russia targeting European finance bosses and politicians over assets. We'll have a look at the I paper next. UK peacemakers getting ready to deploy in Ukraine. So it looks like we are getting ready to send some sort of troops there. And then in the Telegraph, £8 billion cost of EU student exchange. That is, of course, the Erasmus scheme to replace the Turin scheme, or maybe they'll keep them both running. We'll look into that. And in the Sun, Rachel Reeves boots Pep up the tapas. Basically, Pep Guardiola, I think he's Manchester City's boss. Yep. He can't afford his own pub because of Rachel Reeves' tax schemes. So joining me now, my panel, Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Well, I'm going to start with the Pep Guardiola story, because that seems quite an interesting one.
Well,
Adam, you've got a pub.
Problem. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, since Labour came in, they've just saddled pubs, restaurants, cafes, hospitality with extra bills. The first budget cost me about 30,000 in extra costs. The budget just gone another 15,000. So it's about 45,000 in extra costs per year because of Labour. Now, how do they expect us to survive? You've got a very rich multi-millionaire owner here, and his is going under. Gary Neville is on the website. His restaurant is going under.
Well, I think possibly Gary Neville for other reasons, maybe because he opened his big mouth.
But hospitality is in crisis. No, they lied about the business rates. We're getting saddled with more costs. We can't put the price of a pint up anymore. Our customers have only got a certain amount of money. We're in trouble.
Well, how much do you get out? I mean, just to ask.
It's about, I've worked out, I'm about 15p a pint.
Wow.
The government gets more than you. Right, so a third of a pint is tax. But yet people think, oh, greedy pub owner. No, we get 15p roughly per pint.
Shocking.
And look, the Conservatives can't be let off either, because they let down hospitality. They targeted pubs too. It's almost like whoever is above wants pubs to go, and they're doing a very good job of it.
Are you letting any Labour MPs into your pub?
No, I've barred Labour MPs. I've got the sign in the window. I have.
Nina, I mean, look, this is shocking. So they've put in all these different rules. They've increased business rates. They're putting out VAT and duty on alcohol and everything else, and the minimum wage. Of course, we've got the employment or unemployment rights bill coming. What do you think? Do you think the Labour government have got this one wrong?
It's a very, very tricky situation, and it is desperate in hospitality. I do understand it. My favourite pub just round the corner from me has fortunately been bought by Young's, but it was a privately owned pub. They had two, actually, one in Hampstead and one in Notting Hill. And I can see how desperate it is, but you have to say that Brexit didn't help either.
Nonsense.
No, it's true.
Nonsense. Brexit did affect me one bit, Nina. You don't know anything about the pub trade.
What about the staff?
Please.
What about
none of my staff are Eastern European.
Well, okay,
I employ Brits, white, black, and brown.
Well, fine, you employed Brits, but many other people employed Europeans, and when Brexit happened, so many of them just fled back to Europe.
So you should tell those people to employ Brits.
Well, you know, that's just such a little England viewpoint.
Why?
No, we are a diverse, multicultural society. We're open to ideas from around the world.
Cheap labour from Europe?
Not cheap labour. Why should it be cheap?
Well, that's what it would be, because they get...
No, I mean,
it is.
Why would you pay somebody who's French less than you'd pay somebody who's English. Nobody.
Come from France, and at the time sterling was quite high. So what you got in terms of sterling was quite considerable when you turned it to euros. So a lot of those coming from Europe were taking the benefit of a high
the
pound.
problem is this, isn't it? You've got, I mean, the hospitality trade seems to be right on the cusp, but you've got quite a large number of sectors that operate on pretty tight margins. And if you just turn a couple of dials the other way, so Adam, you'll have to be paying your staff on minimum wage more than you were previously. You've already had the national insurance contributions go up.
The business
rates are going up. You only need to dial this a little bit and suddenly pretty much the whole sector becomes unviable. And, you know, hospitality is at the cutting edge of this, but this will apply to other sectors.
We're very close, just quickly, we're very close to a sector collapse at the end of the day. Labour need to know this is an emergency. And if Rachel Reeves is watching, you cannot collect taxes from a shuttered business, a shuttered pub. You're better to get less than nothing at all, and they need to realise pubs are the first jobs for many people. We're the stepping stone of the economy.
Well, I don't know whether Rachel Reeves is the right person for that one. I mean, she notched up £4 on the parliamentary credit card, which was suspended from her. So, you know, unauthorised spending as well. Well, shall we move on to this, the £8 billion cost of the EU student exchange. Now, this is the Erasmus scheme. Some people would argue that the scheme is actually bringing us closer and kind of reversing Brexit. Mark Littlewood.
I think this is all so much nonsense. I have to say I'm not particularly concerned that this drags us back into the EU. I just wouldn't have governments involved in this whatsoever. Let the university sector make their own arrangements. I mean, if
I'm sure they would if they could.
Well, Cambridge University and the Sorbonne can make their own arrangements.
No, but then students aren't, you know...
Why is there any money involved?
No, well, to join the scheme, you have to be part of it.
The money? I mean, there's a lot of demand for people to go and visit different universities as part and parcel of their experience. From non-Brits to come over to Britain, from Brits to go abroad, not necessarily to Europe, perhaps to an American university. Fine, let universities get on with this. Why we need
to... because they can't because of the visas. You can't.
Well, that's up to all we need is the EU to allow student visas. Why is there an £8 billion cost?
You cannot. Look, this means that the students from here, and it's not just university, it's college students, it's sports people, it's all sorts like that. They can go for a year, which they cannot do. They haven't been able to do since Brexit.
You know more come from Europe to here.
Yes, and they will spend money here.
But they've limited to 100,000.
They will pay high
fees. Under Erasmus, I
still.
think last time it was the costs were about 3 to 1 on the UK as opposed to the EU. So I would just get the government out of this. Yes, of course you need a visa scheme of some sort. But my nephew's going off to Australia to study for a year. We haven't had to join some £8 billion scheme to facilitate that.
It would be lovely to go to Australia, and I wouldn't think anybody would want to go to Australia. But in fact, for most students, Europe is much easier.
Well, that's fine, but it doesn't need to cost £8 billion.
Wanted a second referendum. He's desperate. It's a wet dream of his to get us back into Europe. So he's doing this the back door.
It's not Keir Starmer that wants that. It's Ed Davey. So there you go.
Well, it's all of them, really, isn't it? Everybody who voted against the democratic will of the people of this country. Well, stay with us because coming up, there's still time to be part of Patrick's studio audience on Friday. Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It appears seem to need more time to do that.
They definitely do. I mean, I think this country is becoming so ageist, it's not true. We're all being taxed, and when you think of the years and years we've all paid taxes, and, now they're having another go at us. They're taxing our pensions and everything that we might have saved for that rainy day. Certainly, when crossing a road, it is, if you are... I mean, I've got a bad knee, you've got a bad knee over there. We have problems. You have a few problems, Eamon.
About everything.
Yeah, but when you get across the road, you're frightened. I'm frightened of falling, because I think that's one of the major things of old people. They're terrified. I've had 2 friends in the last fortnight fall very badly and they're in hospital. And and then you suddenly get this beep, 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 beep on a crossing, and you panic a bit, and the cars are coming, and bicycles are suddenly there. You know, it's all...
Are people generally not very patient then? Because if there's an old lady or an old man crossing the road in front of me, I'd always stop.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And if you're in a wheelchair, they probably run you over more. I mean, you know, it's a terrible situation.
I mean, it's not so much pedestrian crossings, right? It's the ones where it's lights. And when Christopher quite right says about the beep 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 is so you have, and suddenly it says 10 seconds, 9 seconds.
The countdown's stressful.
Yeah,
and can imagine it would be stressful for elderly people.
trying to I have to trying to drag my leg across the road.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
This is Patrick Christys tonight, only on GB News. I'm Nan Rockley, I'm standing in for Patrick. Now, in the previous segment, Adam Brooks mentioned that getting us back into the EU was Keir Starmer's wet dream. Of course it wasn't. It's just a joke. All right, there you go. I'm sure his
and my opinion.
And your opinion. I'm sure his wet dream was something completely different. Right, so let's have a look at the front covers of the papers. In the Daily Express, stand up to the unions, a ban on doctors' strikes. Now, I remember when I said this a couple of years ago, that people wanted to stick pokers in my eyes. But now, well, I guess a lot of people agree, including Kevin Badenoch. In the front cover of The Times, police vow to stamp out chance for intifada. I'm surprised it's taken them so long to do that. That should have been banned anyway. Front cover of the Daily Mail. $6 billion cost Starmer's new bid to suck up to Brussels. That, of course, is the new Erasmus scheme. 100,000 students will be allowed to go between the two countries, or between the two nations. And then on the front cover of the Mirror, COVID heroes join the flu fight. And, of course, I'm presuming that they're saying that the scientists who helped with the first drug to fight COVID are settling their sights now on getting rid of the super flu or finding some form of vaccine. Well, let's hope it's actually a proper vaccine and not a sort of medication as well. Now, listen, let's have a look at the front cover of the Express. They stand up to the unions, a ban on the doctors' strikes. Nina, your thoughts on that? Do you think that doctors should actually be allowed to strike, given that they are an essential service and their thing, and what they do, you know, will cost lives if they strike?
I think that everyone has a right to withdraw their labour if they choose to. Not the police. Army? Not the army, no. Why not them. Doctors? Well, the thing about doctors is that they are, first, do no harm, I agree. And I am absolutely not in favour of this doctor's strike. I am not in favour at all. They have lost idiotically the trust of the people. They've lost the support of most people, and you know they're going over a cliff. But I do think they do have a right to strike if they want to. Why not?
Well, because they're doctors. And they've signed the Hippocratic Oath. They've signed... Do no harm.
First, do no harm.
Yeah, so
I agree. Well, by withdrawing your labour...
You're doing harm because somebody could be dying and you stop working.
Well, you have to be able to make up your own mind on that.
Well, police aren't allowed and the army aren't allowed.
The cops and the army aren't allowed. Seems to me it's an essential service. I think I'm with Kelly Badenoch. I would ban them from going on strike. That, by the way, doesn't mean that they have no leverage. You could choose, for example, to refuse to work overtime, for the sake of argument, right? So there are still levers that you could pull. But this is an important emergency service, or at least insofar as it applies to emergency life-saving treatment. I guess if you're a cosmetic surgeon, it's not necessarily life-threatening if you go on strike. But broadly speaking, there should be a minimum expectation of service by the British taxpayer. And the medical profession needs to meet that. And if that is not acceptable, go and get a different job.
And let's remember that these people knew what the pay and the structure was before they qualified, when they started doing their university degrees.
And they've had huge pay hikes, despite the fact their performance has not gone up at all.
29% last year, I believe. But this is a failure of West Streeting and the Labour government. They should have tied them up so they couldn't do this again, couldn't come back so soon. Again, police cannot strike because there would be anarchy on the streets. The army cannot strike because it would put national infrastructure in danger. Doctors are there to save lives, and I think if you're a doctor going on this strike now, you need to go and have a good hard look in the mirror and question yourself why you become a doctor in the first place.
But that's the thing. Are they going to be, if doctors were not allowed to strike, how many medical students would we get?
Well, we've got loads of British medical students that can't get a job or cannot become doctors because we are importing doctors from abroad. So maybe
the reason there are so many.
The cartel that is running this, I wouldn't even call them a trade union, they're very keen on throttling and strangling and limiting and bottlenecking the number of people who can enter the medical profession.
I'm not in support of the BMA as it currently stands. But you know, the thing was, under the Tories, I'm afraid, Mark, that the number of medical places that were, I think they were only training 7,000 doctors a year.
That's just
they limited that.
They limited that. Yeah, and the BMA strongly support that. So we need to open that up.
We need
a lot easier to train to be a doctor.
We need more doctors.
And make it a lot easier to train. But if you want to go into that profession, our strong assumption, very probably your contract, is you cannot strike.
And then the reason that we have so many foreign, I hate that word foreign, but foreign non-British doctors is the fact because the health service was collapsing because we were 140,000 down.
Well, it's probably because they were cheap.
So they have been slaving away in our health service.
Cheap labour. You seem to love cheap foreign labour.
It's not cheap. They are paid the same as anyone else. Stop saying cheap.
Our unions are run by Marxists and communists in this country, and that's a very dangerous thing, and I think our unions need to be looked at.
Oh, and they typically want to run a cartel. You know, the railway unions want to make it harder for train drivers to qualify. The BMA want to make it harder for doctors to qualify.
Well, of course, they're still striking. It's day one. What's the day today? Wednesday. Yeah, day one of their strike. We've got 4 more days of it all. But I agree with you guys. Seriously, if you want to be a doctor, then you should know that you shouldn't be allowed to strike, frankly. I mean, you signed the oath. What on earth are they doing? Well, listen, there's a whole load of stuff, loads of news I'll be sharing with you in just a moment. Thank you very much, my brilliant panel, Nina, Mark, and, of course, Adam. But before we go anywhere, let's get an update with your weather.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Now, tomorrow will start dry for most of us, but there is more rain to come, and that rain is likely to be heavy in places. We have Met Office warnings in place for the rain. Initially caused by this weather front, it's been only slowly tracking its way across the country through the day today. Very wet still over Wales and southwest England, but it is turning drier here through this evening. That rain working into eastern parts of England, where it should also tend to fizzle through the early hours. Showers continue to pack in across much of western Scotland, but as I said, many places will become dry by the time we get to dawn as temperatures drop down into single figures, but generally that's still pretty mild for this time of year. So a largely dry, largely cloudy start. Should see some sunny spells across parts of Scotland in the morning. Quite grey though in the south, but the overnight rain may still be lingering across parts of Kent, and it won't be long before the next batch of rain arrives. For Northern Ireland, much of Northern England, good part of Scotland, it's a dry, fine, bright start. There will be some showers just moving in across the northwest of Scotland. And then as we go through the day, the winds will strengthen and the next area of rain will arrive. Coming into the southwest of England initially, spreading right across the south of England, then